Salt sprayed the rails of the white yacht as it cut through the Atlantic like a silver knife. Laughter floated over the water, glasses clinking, Afrobeats humming from a Bluetooth speaker, the bright sun throwing diamonds on each wave. Then the music dipped under the wind, and the party sounds thinned to a hush. On the upper deck, 3 people stood too close to danger. Maya's nails dug into the stainless steel railing as she faced the young woman in the yellow sundress. Blessing held her belly with both hands, a simple reflex as if her palms could protect the life inside. Jordan, tall and careful, hovered between them, sweat shining on his temple. He tried to speak, but the ocean answered first, one long crashing sigh against the hull. "You won't ruin my family," Maya said. Her voice was not loud, it was sharp. "I didn't mean for any of this," Blessing whispered. Her lips were dry. Her eyes looked tired, like she hadn't slept through the night for weeks. "Please. I only came to work, ma'am." "To work?" Maya laughed once, a short broken sound. "You came to steal." Jordan raised both hands. "Everyone calm down, okay? The crew is below. The kids are inside. This is not the time." "The time?" Maya stepped forward. Her wedding ring flashed. "You gave her what belonged to me, Jordan. You gave her our future." Blessing's foot slid on a wet patch of teak. Her heel clipped the open space where safety met sky. She staggered and grabbed the rail. Wind tugged at her scarf until it fluttered like a flag. "I'm sorry," she said to Maya. "For everything." Maya's eyes filled. Not with tears. With a fire that left no room for them. The wave that hit the hull made the deck shudder. In that split second of sway, so brief it could have been a blink, Maya moved. A push. 2 hands. Not a shove to bruise. A shove to end. Blessing tipped backward. The yellow dress painted a bright arc against the blue, then disappeared. The ocean swallowed her with a cold smack. Silence and then a heavy splash. "Blessing!" Jordan shouted, leaning over the rail. His voice broke into the wind. He kicked off his loafers as if planning to dive, but his body froze, trapped between guilt and fear. Maya didn't scream. She stood still, chest heaving, hair whipping, gaze locked on the churning circle where Blessing had been. For one suspended breath, she looked almost calm. Then a hand shot up from the water, Blessing's hand, fingers spread, fighting the drag of the sea. She bobbed, sank, surfaced, mouth open. The ocean kept tugging, pulling her away from the boat like a secret. "Jordan!" Maya shouted now, snapping back into the moment. "Do something." But the yacht kept moving, even as the captain cut speed and alarms began to ring. Crew members scrambled with life buoys. Jordan leaned out with a pole and missed. Blessing's hand vanished again into a hard curl of foam. The ocean rolled a dark shoulder, and the party upstairs turned into a chorus of gasps. A child wailed from inside the cabin. Somewhere below, an engine coughed. Blessing's world shrank to salt and burn and the sound of her own heart pounding. The weight of the baby dragged her down. She pushed upward through a ceiling of cold and caught one last breath. The thin kind, the kind you could put in your pocket and save if you were careful. She saw the white of the yacht like a cloud, already slipping away. And then, far off, the shadow of a wooden boat hugging the waves, a man standing in it, hand over his brow. He seemed to look right at her. She tried to shout. Water hit her tongue like glass. The sea turned her over once more, and the white yacht blurred to a streak on the horizon. Hours earlier, before the sun had risen to its hard noon, before the music and the glasses and the smiling photos, 2 women had shared a kitchen. The apartment over the marina smelled of ripe mango and hot oil. Maya stood at the counter with a chopping board, making kachumbari for the picnic table, the knife hitting the wood with a rhythm that matched the city outside. Across from her, Blessing hushed the toddler, Ava, who had woken from a nap furious at the world. Blessing's scarf was tied tight. Her dress was simple. Her eyes were soft when she looked at the little girl. "Mommy," Ava mumbled from Blessing's shoulder, "you promised French fries." "I'm not Mommy," Blessing said gently. "I'm Blessing. Mommy is right there." Maya turned with a smile that did not quite reach her eyes. "And Mommy promised you French fries." "Yes, I did." She tossed a tomato slice into the air and caught it in a bowl. "We'll eat them on the boat, my darling. Go get your shoes." Ava stretched her arms. Blessing placed her down and the child pattered away. The smile slid from Maya's face like a mask put back in its box. "You're quiet today," Blessing said. "So are you," Maya answered. A beat passed. The only sound was the knife, steady on the board. "Ma'am," Blessing said after a moment, "I wanted to talk to you after the cruise. About a small health thing. Nothing serious." Maya's eyes sliced to her, sharp as the blade in her hand. Not today. Blessing lowered her gaze. She folded a dish towel. She unfolded it again. She might as well have said everything without saying a word. The morning sickness, the clinic appointments she'd missed, the crumpled test in the bottom of her bag. 2 weeks earlier the test had turned the world into before and after. She had stared at the lines and thought only of home, of a mother who sold peppers in the market and measured love in bowls of soup, of a father who went out on a fishing boat one night and never came back. She had thought of how she had promised them she would do better. That promise felt like a small candle in a storm. Jordan had found her crying in the hallway. He had reached out with a soft voice and a stupid, foolish kindness. He had been the first to know. He had promised to do the right thing. To tell Maya. To be a man about it. But every day the telling became tomorrow. Maya had noticed the silences. The soft laughs that weren't hers. The way Blessing avoided the mirror when she tied her scarf. She had noticed the way Jordan's eyes lingered too long on the kitchen door, the late-night messages he pretended were from clients, the scent of cologne in the guest room at dawn. It was the invisible that gave the truth away. A needle of pain in her side when he smiled. A small tremble in Blessing's hands when she poured milk. When Maya found the ultrasound tucked into a cookbook, the picture grainy as the moon, her breath left her body like a bird blown off a branch. The yacht was her idea. A family cruise. A fresh start. One day on the water to press everything clean and flat like a sheet under a hot iron. That was what she told Jordan. That was also a lie. The marina had shimmered under morning sun. Friends gathered with baskets and cameras. A pastor cousin had joked about blessings upon blessings, and someone had laughed too loudly. The crew untied the ropes. The yacht slid forward like a white dream. On the deck, Maya watched Blessing move among the guests, carrying a tray, avoiding her eyes, her hands sometimes drifting to her belly when she forgot to pretend. Jordan avoided everyone. He kept looking at the ocean where the horizon didn't ask him any questions. Halfway to the open water, the wind changed. The music kept playing, but something under it went quiet. Maya touched the ultrasonogram folded in her pocket, and the decision climbed up from the place where rage and fear sit together and whisper. Now, in the water's iron embrace, Blessing kicked and fought. She counted seconds like beads of a rosary. She thought of a tiny heartbeat. She thought of a house with a tin roof and a woman who would wait by the door until the light failed. The wooden boat drew closer. The man standing in it was older, with a fisherman's calm. He steered with one hand and reached with the other, his arm long, wiry, sure. Blessing's strength frayed. The sea rolled her under again. When she broke the surface, the man's boat was there, almost on top of her. His eyes were the color of dark wood polished by years of salt. "Take my hand," he said. Blessing lifted her arm. Her fingers grazed his. A wave struck the hull and knocked her sideways. She coughed seawater and swallowed fear. "Take it," he shouted. She reached again. The ocean pulled hard, hard, like it wanted to keep what it had been given. Her palm found his. His grip closed like iron. Behind her, a shadow passed under the water, large, slow. The fisherman's eyes flicked to it and widened. He hauled her up, muscles straining, her body thudding against the side. The boat rocked, rope creaking. From the direction of the yacht came the thin cry of a child's voice carried on the wind. The fisherman's hands slipped. Blessing slid, then caught the gunwale with both arms and clung. A dark fin broke water 10 yards away and sliced toward them. "Hold," the man said. "Hold and don't look back." Blessing shut her eyes and felt the wood under her nails, the boat lifting, the world turning. The fin cut closer. The wind hissed a warning. A rough palm seized her wrist from the black water, and a voice said close to her ear, "If you want to live, forget your name." The fin sliced closer, dark and sure. The fisherman yanked Blessing's arm with a grunt that came from the bottom of his lungs. Her ribs scraped the gunwale, pain flashed white. The boat lurched. A wave punched the stern. For 1 second she felt weightless between sea and sky, and then the fisherman's hands clamped her shoulders and dragged her all the way in. She fell to the floorboards, coughing up salt. He planted a foot on the bench to steady them and gunned the outboard. The small boat skittered, then surged. The fin veered, curved once, vanished in a burst of foam that could have been anything: shark, dolphin, a ghost pulled by current. Blessing clutched the bench and dared a breath. "Keep your head down," the fisherman said, eyes on the choppy water. "Don't wave. Don't look back." The wind tore at his faded cap. His hands were rope and bone. He drove toward the velvet line of marsh on the horizon, away from the white yacht now shrinking to a dot. "What did you say?" Blessing whispered, throat raw. "Forget my name?" He didn't look at her. I didn't say it, he replied. But you should. Salt stung the cuts on her forearms. The taste of ocean sat thick on her tongue. She curled an arm over her belly and felt a small hardness there that was more than fear. They reached the lee of an island where the water turned quiet and green. The fisherman cut the engine and let the boat glide into a slip of shade under leaning pines. A heron watched them from one leg. The air smelled like mud and sun-warmed cordgrass. Can you stand? He asked. She tried. The world tilted. He caught her elbow and eased her up. I'm Zeke, he said. Ezekiel Garrison. Folks call me Uncle Zeke. I fish the flats. I mind my business. But I ain't blind. He led her along a narrow plank dock to a weathered shack raised on short pilings, the kind that had been mended so many times it had learned to survive by stubbornness alone. The door creaked. Inside, cool dim light lay over a table, 2 chairs, a blue cooler, a shelf of jars with tight metal lids. A map of the Georgia coast was tacked to the wall, edges curled. Sit, he said. Your lips are white. Your body's shaking. All of that is normal. You're in one piece, so let's keep you that way. He poured water from a jug into a tin cup and watched to make sure she sipped slow. A small radio murmured a gospel station under a fan that clicked every few turns. Thank you, she whispered. Thank you, sir. He opened a cabinet, pulled out a clean towel and handed it over. Dry off. I'll fetch my niece. She's a CNA. She'll look you over. If we call the Coast Guard, the yacht will speak first and folks with money bend truth like reeds. You hear me? She nodded. Tears rose hot, surprising her. She blinked them back. My name is Bless. He lifted a hand. Don't tell me yet. Her chest fluttered. She pressed her palm to it and felt the small tremors slow. Outside, he made a short call on an old flip phone. Alana, he said, come now. Bring your bag. Don't ask me what for. You'll see. When he stepped back inside, she had wrapped the towel around her shoulders like a shawl. She stared at the map. On the water, the yacht was gone. The room felt like a pocket outside time. Zeke pulled out a chair and sat, hat in his hands. If you stay here an hour, you're a guest. If you stay a day, you're family. But family under my roof follows my rules. Rule 1, we keep quiet. Rule 2, we tell truth to each other even if we can't tell it to the world yet. You able to do that? Blessing swallowed. Her throat burned. Yes. He nodded as if that settled something. Good. Tell me what I should call you. Her first name landed on her tongue, then hesitated. She thought of the voice near her ear on the water. If you want to live, forget your name, and for a moment she wondered if she imagined it. Maybe the ocean whispered it. Maybe the baby did. Ruth, she said at last, surprised at her own answer. Call me Ruth. Zeke's eyes softened just a fraction. All right, Ruth. He stood to put a pot on the hot plate, cracking in a couple of eggs with the easy grace of a man who had cooked for himself too many mornings to count. As oil hissed, blessing, Ruth, let her gaze rest on the radio, on the way dust turned to glitter in the shaft of light, on the way Zeke's hands moved like a promise. Why were you out there? He asked without turning. That boat wasn't close to shore. Ruth's fingers tightened on the towel. The words came slow but steady, like steps across a room after a long sickness. I worked for them, she said. For the family on the yacht. I cleaned, cooked, watched the children. The wife, Maya, she was kind once. Then she wasn't. The husband, Jordan, her mouth tightened. He made mistakes. I made one with him. I told him I was pregnant. He said he would tell her. He didn't. Zeke's jaw flexed. He slid eggs onto a plate and set it in front of her with a slice of bread thin as a window. You'll need strength. She picked at the bread, then took a bite of egg. Warmth spread through her like light through water. She almost cried again for the simple mercy of it. On the boat, she whispered, Maya asked me if I came to steal. I told her I came to work. Maybe both felt true. I don't know anymore. Then she pushed me. Zeke let out a long breath through his nose. Some things folks do can't be taken back. But they can be answered. She looked up. Answered how? You'll see, he said. But first you got to live through today. Footsteps thudded on the plank outside. A young woman stepped in, skin the color of new coffee, braids tucked into a scarf. She wore scrubs printed with tiny stethoscopes and carried a black bag. Her eyes moved fast, reading the room in a second, then landed on Ruth. I'm Alana, she said, and there was both gentleness and a certain steel in the way she spoke. Uncle Zeke told me what he didn't tell me. Can I check you? Ruth nodded. Alana knelt, took her pulse, checked her pupils, wrapped a pressure cuff around her arm, then tapped 2 fingers lightly against Ruth's wrist, counting beats. Her hands were warm. Her breath smelled faintly of mint. "You swallowed half the Atlantic," Alana said. "But your lungs sound clear. Any pain?" "Everywhere," Ruth murmured. "But it will pass." Alana pressed gently on her abdomen. Ruth flinched. Alana's eyes flicked up. "You're pregnant?" Alana asked softly. Ruth's answer was a nod so small it was mostly grief. Alana pulled a small handheld Doppler from the bag and gelled its tip. "This may not pick up much yet," she said, "but we can try." Ruth lay back as Alana moved the probe. The room held its breath. Static filled the few inches of space between now and forever. For a heartbeat there was nothing. Then a soft, fast rhythm emerged, a small horse running far away. Ruth's lips parted. Tears slid into her hair where she lay. Alana shifted the probe a little to the left, then to the right. Another rhythm answered, separate and sure. She froze. Her eyes lifted to Zeke. Then back to Ruth. "You hear that?" Alana whispered. Ruth blinked. "Is that?" "2," Alana said. "2 heartbeats." Ruth covered her mouth. For one suspended moment, fear and wonder braided together until they were the same rope. Zeke leaned his hat against the table and let out a low sound that was half prayer. "Twins," he said. "God doubled you." Ruth tried to smile and failed. She laughed once, a broken sound, and then the tears came and would not stop. Alana squeezed her hand. Outside, a motor droned past, then faded. Somewhere a gull complained like an old uncle. On the yacht, miles away, Maya sat in the cabin with a blanket around her shoulders she didn't need, staring at nothing until nothing stared back. Jordan stood with the captain, repeating the words they had agreed on. Accident, slippery deck, panic. He could not keep his hands from shaking. He could not keep his eyes from the spot on the rail where a gold ring had flashed before a yellow dress fell. A teen on a jet ski had paused at a polite distance to watch the flashing lights as the yacht slowed. He had lifted his phone out of habit because habit had become recording and recording had become proof. He had filmed the 3 figures at the rail, no sound, only the wind, and then the small arc of yellow against the sky. He did not know yet what he had. By dusk, a cloud the color of old bruise lay over the marsh. Ruth slept on Zeke's narrow couch, turned on her side, a towel under her wet hair, her palm covering the small swell of her belly as if it were a secret she could keep simply by holding it. Zeke and Alana sat at the table, talking low. "We can't keep her here long," Alana said. "People talk. Boats talk more." "I'll take her to Miss Ora on Sapelo," Zeke said. "Midwife keeps her peace. No one asks her anything she doesn't want to answer." "And after that?" Zeke's gaze found the curled edge of the map. "After that, we see what God and common sense say together." Alana opened her mouth to reply, then stopped. Something at the window changed the air, a shadow, a pause, a presence. She rose and stepped to the door. Zeke's hand found the handle of a gaff hook by instinct more than thought. A knock sounded, 3 slow raps that knew exactly where they had come. Zeke slid the door open 2 inches. A man stood in the falling light, in a dark windbreaker with a badge clipped to his belt. His eyes scanned the room, then softened just enough to be called human. He held up a printed photo, a still from a phone video, grainy but clear enough to show a woman in a yellow dress, a hand at her shoulder, the ghost shape of a yacht's rail. "Evening," the man said. "Sheriff's office. We're looking for a witness, or a body. Folks say you see things out here, Mr. Garrison. You seen this girl?" Before Zeke could answer, a second shadow shifted at the edge of the palmettos. A taller man stepped forward from the trees, careful shoes in the mud, careful smile under careful eyes. Jordan. He had traded the boat deck for land, but he carried the same storm with him. He looked past the badge, past Zeke, straight into the dim room and said in a voice too soft for the wind, "I'll pay whatever it takes to keep her name out of your mouth." Zeke didn't open the door any wider. The sheriff's badge gleamed dull in the last light. Jordan's careful shoes sank a little in the marsh mud, but he didn't step back. The air tasted like rain before rain. Alana slid one toe against the floor, a soft signal. Ruth rose, holding her belly, and moved soundlessly toward the back hallway. Alana eased the bedroom door open just enough for Ruth to slip inside. The door clicked like a held breath. "Evening," Zeke said, voice easy as a slow tide. "You're on my steps, so I'll hear you. But you don't walk into my house without paper." The sheriff, broad shoulders, close-cut hair, the look of a man who had seen plenty and believed half, held up the print again. "Name's Sheriff Marlon Cole. We got a call about an incident offshore. Some folks said a woman went overboard from a private yacht. Captain reported it as an accident. Then a teenager sent us a video that doesn't look like one. We're looking for a victim or a witness. You see anything strange today? Every day is strange on water, Zeke said. But if you're asking did I pull any person out the ocean, no. Not yet. Jordan's jaw tightened. We don't need to make this complicated, he said low. This was a misunderstanding. A family matter. We're just trying to make sure everyone is safe and discreet. Sheriff Cole turned his head slow. Mr. Johnson, Jordan said, smoothing his cuff. Jordan Johnson. You on that yacht? Jordan gave a small nod. My wife and I, friends. You report the fall? The captain did. We searched. We couldn't find her. Her who? Jordan's eyes flicked to the photo and back. Our nanny. She lost her footing. The deck was wet. We want to keep her name out of any trouble. The sheriff didn't look away from Jordan. Keeping names out of trouble usually puts people in it, he said. His gaze came back to Zeke. May I look around back? Just the dock. I'll stay off your floors. Zeke lifted a hand, palm up. The dock belongs to the river. You can glance. Cole stepped to the side, boots careful on the planks. He squinted at the waterline, at the scum marks, at the rope coiled neat. He bent and touched a faint scrape, the kind wetwood keeps like a secret. He didn't comment. He peered at a pair of small sandy footprints near the shower head and then straightened. Jordan reached into his windbreaker and drew out a thick white envelope with the smooth ease of practice. He kept it close to his body like a magician hiding a coin. Mr. Garrison, he said, using the name as if it bought something. You're respected. I can tell. I'm prepared to make a donation to whatever you respect most. Your church. Your boat. Your niece's studies. You say you saw nothing and we all move on. Zeke's eyes did not drop to the envelope. You got a leak in your spirit, Mr. Johnson? Money won't plug it. Jordan's smile held, thin and bright. Everyone has a price. Some of us have a spine, Zeke said. Sheriff Cole came back to the door. All right, he said as if to himself. He took a card from his pocket and slid it to the table inside with 2 fingers. Mr. Garrison, if you hear anything, you call me. If anyone shows up hurt or scared, you call me faster. Mr. Johnson, I'll need a statement from you downtown. Jordan's eyes cooled. I'll have my attorney call you. Good, Cole said. He can walk you in. Alana stood with her hands folded, expression calm as a nurse in a storm. The sheriff nodded to her, then to Zeke, and stepped off the stoop. The marsh grass hissed around his pant legs as he walked back to his truck. Jordan lingered. He flicked a glance beyond Zeke, past the cooler, toward the hallway. He saw the towel on the chair, the second tin cup by the sink, the damp print of a small palm on the table's edge. His nostrils flared. He slid the envelope onto the threshold. For when you change your mind, he said. And you will. Zeke nudged the envelope with the toe of his boot. It slipped into the thin line between the boards and fell to the dark underhouse where fiddler crabs scuttled. Jordan's mouth opened, then closed. He turned, stepped off the stoop, and left a boot print on the mud like a hard word. As the engine noise faded, Alana moved. She opened the bedroom door. Ruth stood inside with her back to the wall, eyes wide, breath held like a fragile thing. Alana put a finger to her own lips and nodded. We're good, she whispered. For now. Ruth's knees softened. She sat on the edge of the bed, palms on her belly. He was here, she said, voice shaking. He came for me. He came to clean a mess, Zeke said. But he don't hold the broom. Alana checked Ruth's pulse again, then switched her stethoscope to the small, fast rhythm she had found before. They're steady, she said. But you need rest. And quiet. We can't keep that with boats snooping. Zeke rolled the map off the wall, laid it on the table, and pointed to a lace of green islands and black channels. We go at dark, he said. Backwater path. No lights. Aura's cabin on Sapelo. She'll keep you until we figure next steps. Miss Aura, Alana said, half a smile returning to her mouth. If the river has secrets, she's their librarian. She won't ask questions, Zeke said. And she knows how to catch a baby that wants to come too soon. Ruth touched the edge of the bed with her fingers, grounding herself. I don't want to hide forever, she said, barely above a breath. I want the truth to stand up. I want my children not to be born under a lie. They won't, Zeke said. But staying alive makes truth louder. First we keep you breathing. Then we find a way to make the right eyes see what really happened. He glanced at Alana. She understood. The teen with the video. The internet moves faster than boats. I know the boy, Alana said. Darius. His aunt comes to my clinic. I'll talk to him. We'll make sure the video reaches the right hands before it disappears. Before it disappears? Ruth asked. Mighty strange how videos vanish when lawyers start calling, Zeke said. We put it in many places it's harder to pry up. Rain began as a whisper on the roof, then a soft drum. Dusk slid down over the water like an old shawl. Zeke moved easy through his evening list. A second jug of fuel, a spare plug, 2 life vests, a coil of line, a flashlight with a red lens, and disappeared each item under a tarp in the small skiff tied at the shadow side of the dock. Alana packed a soft bag. Clean t-shirt, long skirt, sweater, prenatal vitamins from a clinic sample drawer, gauze, a sealed bottle of water, crackers. She slid in a small plastic folder with copies of Ruth's ID, because paper has a way of walking off when you need it most. Ruth looked at the room one more time. The chair. The map. The radio with its soft hum. It felt like the first safe place in a long time. Why are you helping me? She asked, sudden and raw. You don't know me. Zeke paused at the door, rain dimpling his hat brim. A long time ago, he said, a storm took my brother's boat. He lived. The man who fished him out didn't ask his name, till he had breath again. My brother told me that every year on the day he was found, he gave a stranger a ride. Guess it stuck in our blood. Ruth's eyes stung. She nodded and wiped them with the heel of her hand. They left without turning on a single bright light. The skiff eased off the dock like a cat down a hallway, motor set low, tilting the marsh water into slow ripples. Rain softened the sounds of the night. Frogs tuned their throats. A blue heron lifted, slow and old, and drifted away. Zeke steered by memory and the pale skin of the river. He kept to the narrow cuts where the reeds leaned close, kept the motor just strong enough to beat the current and no more. Alana crouched in the bow with the red lens flashlight cupped in her palm, flashing it twice at each turn, a family signal older than her. Ruth sat on the middle bench, wrapped in a dry jacket, both hands on the place where 2 hearts ran like twin drums. She breathed with the motor. She did not say the name she had once whispered to herself in the small hours, because saying names made people easier to find. Behind them, out toward open water, a hum started. Faint at first, then steadier. A second boat, engine tuned smart, not big enough for show and not small enough for work. Zeke listened without turning his head. Alana heard it too. She leaned back, voice low. We have company. Zeke kept his face forward. Could be shrimpers moving late. In a storm? Alana asked. Could be trouble, Zeke said. He slid the throttle a hair and the skiff answered with a soft push. The reed banks narrowed. The water turned to black silk. The second engine grew, then dipped, then grew again as if its driver didn't want to show speed, only closeness. Ruth's fingers tightened. A dull cramp tugged low in her belly, quick, then gone. She closed her eyes and told her body to wait. A light swept once across the reeds behind, white and thin, then snapped away. Zeke took a hard right into a cut barely wider than his boat. Branches brushed their shoulders and whispered secrets. The following engine hesitated, then found the turn and came on. Alana hissed through her teeth. They know these waters. Or they have a map and a pride problem, Zeke said. 2 mistakes in a marsh. Rain picked up, fine as lace. The air felt tight, like a drum stretched too long in heat. Ruth bent forward as another cramp rolled across her. It held longer this time, like a fist that didn't want to unclench. Zeke, Alana said, hearing the change in Ruth's breath. I know, he said. Hold, Ruth. Breathe slow. Something's wrong, Ruth whispered. It's coming too soon. A spotlight flared on behind them, wide and bright, washing the reeds into flat paper and throwing a big, clean circle on the water where their wake broke. A voice lifted over the hum, amplified by a cheap loud hailer. Boat ahead, cut your engine. Alana turned, squinting into the glare. She couldn't see the faces in the other boat, just the shape of 2 men. One tall at the tiller, one standing with the light, steady and wanting. Rain turned the beam into a white wall. Zeke didn't cut anything. He aimed for the darkest line on his left where he knew a narrow pass slit the bank like a hidden mouth. He dropped speed just enough to slide in without tearing the skiff's skin. The other boat followed harder. Its engine growled. The light bounced, caught the edge of a cypress trunk, flashed off water, swung back. The driver corrected a beat late. The hull kissed a root with a sound like a broken plate. Ruth's cramp clenched again, sharp enough to pull a cry from her throat. Warm wet spread under her palms. Alana, she gasped. Please. Alana dropped to her knees beside her, hands practiced and quick. She touched, checked, listened with her skin. Then she looked up at Zeke and saw worry there, the kind he hid from patients but not from family. "It's starting," she said. "Bleeding. We need cover now." The spotlight burned wider. The following boat closed the gap. A shape rose in it, broad-shouldered, rain-slicked, voice smooth even through the tinny speaker. "Turn around," he called. "No one has to get hurt." Jordan's voice carried over the water like a promise made with a straight face. Zeke's jaw set. He spun the tiller with a snap and shot the skiff into a stand of black needlerish so tight it brushed their cheeks. The reeds hid them for a heartbeat. The spotlight swung past, searching. Ruth's hands slipped on the wet wood. Pain brightened and rolled. She felt the small drums inside her kick against the storm. The other boat corrected and nosed toward their hiding slit. The beam found them. Rain thrashed white in the light. The motor roared behind. Alana wrapped one arm around Ruth and braced her with the other. Zeke lifted the skiff's bow with power he didn't have and whispered a prayer that sounded like a command. The light swelled until it was all there was. And the skiff slammed to a stop against something in the dark, hard enough to throw all three of them forward. Right as Ruth's body answered with a tearing wave that said the twins were coming now. The skiff hit something that didn't give, an old cypress stump buried just below the black skin of the creek. The bow pitched up and then slammed back down. Zeke's shoulder cracked against the tiller. Alana threw her arm across Ruth, taking the brunt of the jolt. The spotlight behind them jumped, then steadied, washing the reeds in a ghost-white glare. Ruth folded over as another pain seized her. Heat spread between her thighs, hot against the cold rain. She gasped and heard her own voice as if from far away. "I can't, it's too soon." "It's not asking," Alana said, calm and fast, her hands already moving. "We ride the wave. Zeke, we need cover now." "Hold on," Zeke muttered. He jammed the throttle, rocked the tiller, and tried to shake the skiff free. It stuck, groaned, then popped loose with a slap that spun them sideways. The following boat swung wide to avoid ramming them. Its engine snarled too hard. The hull skipped, kissed the same stump, and bucked. The spotlight slid off them and stared at the sky. Zeke saw a dark slit to the left, a narrow cut where old rice planters once let the tide slip into their fields. He had chased mullet through it as a boy when his hands were smaller and his courage bigger. He yanked the tiller and shot into the gap. Needlerish scraped the gunnels. The skiff narrowed the world to one tight green tunnel. Behind, the other boat corrected and followed, but the driver didn't know the bend you had to respect. He punched the throttle and his stern fish-tailed. The spotlight bounced. For a breath, Zeke lost them behind the reeds. "Breathe with me," Alana told Ruth, low and steady. "In through your nose. Out like your cooling soup." "Good." Again. Ruth tried to match the rhythm. The pain didn't care, but the air in her lungs obeyed Alana's voice. Rain ticked on the jacket draped over her shoulders. She clung to the bench with one hand and the small ache of life with the other. The cut opened into a shallow pool ringed by black trunks. Beyond it, a wall of needlerish seemed to close their path, until a rusted gate in the grasses shuddered and began to lift, water gurgling through its teeth. Zeke blinked. The tide gate moved the way an old animal moves, slow, stubborn, remembering. A lantern bobbed in the reeds on the other side, its light honey-soft against the storm. A woman's silhouette stood behind it, straight-backed, head wrapped in a dark scarf. "Come on, Zeke," she called, voice rich and familiar as river mud. "You took your time." "Miss Ora," Zeke breathed, relief rolling through his chest. He gunned the skiff. They slid under the gate as it clanked up the last inches, the lantern glow swallowing them like a swallowed prayer. Reeds brushed their shoulders and then fell away to a narrow, sheltered creek with cypress knees rising like old knuckles. The gate clanged down again, fast. The spotlight swept, hit metal, and flared white. The boat behind them skidded to a stop at the barrier. The driver cursed. The taller man raised a hand against the glare, jaw set like a promise. Jordan's silhouette was sharp even without his name. Zeke steered for the tiny dock ahead, two boards nailed into stubbornness. Miss Ora stood there with the lantern in one hand and a coil of line in the other. She wore a long denim skirt and boots that had walked the marsh for 50 years. Her eyes were bright and unamused. "You brought rain and trouble," she said. "And somebody who needs me more than both." Alana answered with a nod that was half bow. "She's bleeding. Twins." "Twins?" Ora's brows rose. "Then the Lord sent two storms at once." They bumped the dock. Ora looped the line and hauled them in with the clean, easy strength of a practiced back. Zeke jumped out and steadied the bow. Alana gathered Ruth in her arms. Ruth tried to stand, her legs trembled. Pain flared and broke, left her breath ragged. I can walk, she said, stubborn through her teeth. You can lean, Ora replied. That's a kind of walking. They moved over the two-plank dock to a cabin tucked under trees, small and square and patient. A single window threw warm light into the rain. The door was already open. Inside, a clean bed waited with a folded quilt, a stack of towels, and steam rising from a kettle on a black stove. Glass jars lined a shelf with labels in neat handwriting. Comfrey, raspberry leaf, clove. A cross hung above the door, its wood polished by thumbs. Ora's hands were soft but sure. Alana, boil water. Zeke, lift that old radio and set it by the window. If anything bangs that gate again, I want to hear it talk. Zeke set the radio where she said. Static murmured like distant bees. He dialed until a news voice came through, faint with rain. Words floated. Search offshore, private vessel. Investigators reviewing video. Ruth lay back and gripped the edge of the mattress. Ora's fingers checked what a clock cannot. She looked up, eyes clear. They're early, but they're coming like they've made up their minds. We've got work. Outside, thunder rolled, not angry but insistent. A boat's engine growled on the far side of the gate, then settled to a patient idle. Waiting. Measuring. The rain softened to a whisper. Ora washed her hands like a surgeon, humming a low hymn under her breath that sounded older than the boards. Girl, she said to Ruth without looking up, what do you say you're called? Ruth breathed in, breathed out. The pain blinked and returned. Ruth, she managed. Ruth, Ora repeated as if testing the weight of it. Good name. Means you know how to stay when staying is hard. We'll need that now. Alana moved the kettle, laid out clean cloths, shot texts with quick thumbs between tasks. To Darius, to a clinic friend who knew 3 journalists, to Sheriff Cole. She typed without names. She sent the boy a simple line. Save copies to the cloud and to a hard drive. Post the long version. Turn off your comments. She added a prayer hand emoji, then deleted it. No time for symbols. Only acts. The radio voice sharpened for a moment. A video posted by a bystander appears to show a woman pushed from the deck, then dissolved again in static. Zeke's head lifted. He reached for the knob. The signal faded, returned, carried one clean sentence like a leaf on current. Authorities have asked anyone with information to contact Sheriff Marlon Cole. Zeke's phone buzzed in his pocket. A text from an unknown number slid onto the screen with the slow reluctance of a snake. He read it, jaw tightening. I know where you took her. You have 1 hour. J. He didn't show it to Alana or Ora. He slid the phone face down on the windowsill like a rock on a note. You're not alone in this, Ora said to Ruth, as if hearing Zeke's thought without eyes. You're in a house built by women who caught babies when doctors wouldn't come. You're going to breathe this pain into life. And the men who set storms in motion can pace in the rain and listen. Ruth nodded, tears slipping out without being invited. She clenched her jaw as another contraction rose. The world narrowed to breath, to the squeeze of bone and will, to Alana's voice counting low. Beyond the gate, a boat bumped metal. A man cursed. Another voice, the driver, warned about the tide dropping, about getting stuck in the cut if they waited too long. Jordan's answer came cold and certain. We're not leaving. Alana leaned to Ruth's ear. Listen to me. You are not what they did to you. You are what you choose right now. Choose to breathe. Choose to push when I say. We're going to welcome 2 little fighters into a world that tried to scare them off. Ruth dug her fingers into the quilt. What if they're too early? Then we fight smarter, Ora said. We warn them. We watch them breathe. We make phone calls to people who don't ask who you are until after they save you. A contraction slammed into Ruth like a wave that wanted to knock her off her feet. She wrote it, growled against it, surprised by the animal sound in her throat. The room sharpened. Time did a strange change. It sped and slowed, then left the clock somewhere by the door. Zeke stood guard by the window, eyes on the gate, ears on the radio, hand on the old gaff hook leaning in the corner. He had no wish to use it. He had every plan to if a man broke that door. On the yacht miles away, Maya sat on the edge of a hotel bed, a towel twisted in her hands until the threads gave. The TV on mute flashed the screenshot already sparking the evening news. A yellow dress caught against a blue sky. Her own face ghosted in the screen over the image, eyes swollen, mouth a hard line. Her phone buzzed and buzzed, lawyers, friends, cousins who were both, but she stared at one message that didn't fit, a link from an unknown Atlanta number. The video loaded. No edits. Raw wind. No sound. The angle from the jet ski boy's phone was far but clear enough. A hand on a shoulder. The push. She watched herself lean in, eyes like flint. And behind her, in one bright frame, she wished the rain would smear, but it didn't. A second hand at the small of blessings back. Jordan's. Quick as a snake. Firm as blame. No one on the yacht had seen that angle. But the camera had. Maya pressed the towel to her mouth until the world blurred. Then she stood, hands shaking, and reached for the car keys. Back at the cabin, Aura's voice shifted from quiet to command. Alana, we're there. Ruth, listen. The first one's ready. With the next breath, you push down like you're trying to blow the door off a cellar. Now. Ruth bore down, face set, sound low and fierce. The room filled with the heat of effort. Aura's hands guided, sure and gentle. Alana counted. Zeke's gaze stayed on the gate, but his lips moved with a prayer his grandmother taught him when he was 6 and cobwebs were monsters. One more push. Aura's hands lifted something into the light, wet, small, and perfect. For a breath that clawed at time, the cabin went silent. Then a thin cry broke the storm. Alana laughed, a bright, choked sound, and wiped the baby's face. You hear that? She whispered, eyes shining. A voice already. It's a girl, Aura said, wrapping the tiny body, movements so practiced they looked like music. Hello, river child. Ruth sobbed and laughed in the same breath. The pain didn't pause, it rolled right on. Aura set the first twin on Ruth's chest for one heartbeat, long enough to say this is yours, then lifted her gently to Alana's waiting arms. Warm her. Skin to skin. Zeke, throw 2 more logs in that stove. Before Zeke could turn, a new clatter rang from the gate, metal on metal, followed by a hollow thud. Someone was trying to pry it up. The radio hissed and cleared. Sheriff Cole's voice cut through, strong as a bell. To the vessel at the tide gate, this is law enforcement. Cut your engine and stand down. We have reason to believe a crime was committed on the water today. Do not attempt to enter that channel. Jordan's answer floated back, cool and contemptuous. Sheriff, you're interfering with a family emergency. You already interfered with a life, Cole said. Step away. Ruth's body answered the world with one more wrenching surge. Aura leaned close. Second one stubborn. That means strong. Ruth, look at me. Ruth locked onto the older woman's eyes. They were deep and calm as rain barrels in summer. We finish what God started, Aura said. Now. Ruth pushed with everything that betrayal had built inside her. Every silent night, every small swallowed fear, every day she'd promised herself she would survive long enough to see truth stand. The room tilted. The air thinned. And then, the second twin slipped into Aura's hands, smaller, quiet, slick with the sea of arrival. Silence. Alana's breath hitched. Zeke turned, forgetting the gate, forgetting the radio, forgetting the text in his pocket like a snake on a note. Aura worked with quick certainty, rubbing the small back, clearing the tiny mouth, coaxing with a rhythm older than law. Come on now, she whispered. We don't end on hush. The baby lay still for one long breaking beat. Outside, tires hissed in mud. A car door slammed. Footsteps pounded the planks of the outer dock, sure, fast, unafraid. A woman stepped into the doorway, rain turning her hair to dark rope. Her eyes were wild and honest. Wow. She took in the room, the bed, Ruth's white face, the small warm cry from Alana's arms, the second baby motionless in Aura's hands, and her mouth opened on a confession that might change the map of everything. Before a word could leave it, the second twin jerked, let out a thin, stubborn wail, and filled the cabin with a sound that made even the river hold still. The gate clanged under a fresh blow. Sheriff Cole shouted something they couldn't hear over the storm. Maya stepped farther in, shaking, lips parting around a truth that carried fire. And that was the moment the lantern guttered, shadows leaped, and the front window flashed blue with a cruiser's lights as 2 boats scraped metal in the dark, and the person no one expected to follow Maya into that room crossed the threshold behind her. Maya's shadow stretched across the floorboards, water dripping from the hem of her coat, hair stuck to her cheeks like lines drawn by a shaking hand. She didn't look at Zeke or the gaff hook or the radio. She looked at Ruth, at the tiny bundle on Alana's chest, at the second child in Aura's hands finally finding breath, and something in her face broke and rearranged into the truth. I saw the video, she said, voice husky and plain. Not the one the captain thinks he can explain. The other angle. I saw my own hand. I saw his. The person behind her stepped into the room, closing the rain out with a shove of the door. He was young, tall, hoodie plastered to his head, breathless from a run. Darius. In his fist, a clear pouch with a memory card and a phone inside, screen glowing under drops of water. I brought the source file, he blurted, eyes flicking from the babies to Ruth to Maya. Before the comments went crazy, I pulled the original off my backup. 2 cameras. I was messing with my GoPro at the same time, strapped to my chest. Didn't even remember till I checked. It shows both of them. She pushed. Darius swallowed. He helped. Zeke's jaw flexed once, like he bit a word in half before it could spoil. Shut that door proper, he said. And breathe. You're a guest when you cross my step, even if you carry fire. Maya stepped forward, palms up, eyes wet. The kind of wet that didn't want pity. I came to say I did this, she said to Ruth, and the room leaned a little closer to hear words few people choose. I came to say I thought I could throw you away and throw away what he did and still call myself a mother. But the camera told the truth I hid from myself. I don't know how to fix it, but I know this. I'm done lying. To you. To the law. To my children. Outside, the gate groaned under another blow. The radio caught Sheriff Cole's steady voice again, closer now, and the tinny answer of a man who had never been told no. Ora didn't look up from the baby in her hands. She worked with small, important motions, rubbing the tiny back, checking the rise and fall, wrapping tight and warm. Confessions don't warm milk, she said. But truth makes it easier to swallow what comes next. Hand me that towel, Zeke. Ruth, look at me. You did what no one else in this room could do tonight. You put life on the table. That means something no matter who waits outside. Ruth stared at Maya, breath catching on tiny sobs that didn't have the strength to turn into tears. Why did you help him? She asked. Why that second hand? Maya's mouth opened and closed. Because I wanted to hurt him without losing him, she whispered. Because I thought if I erased you, I erased my shame. Because I am not the woman I thought I was when the wind blows the wrong way. That's not an excuse. That's why I'm here. Then you're here to do more than talk, Zeke said. You're here to stand. Darius pushed the pouch toward Alana. Copy it, he said. Cloud goes offline, the card stays. And I turned on AirDrop for anyone whose law in case everything else breaks. Alana slid the card into a small USB reader and a battered laptop she kept for clinic forms, hands moving like she'd always been good at saving things that tried to slip away. The progress bar crawled. Rain ticked. The babies breathed. Ruth, pale and trembling, pressed her lips to the top of the smaller twin's head and tasted salt and linen and the raw sweetness of the new. The radio flared with footsteps and a shout. Hold that chain. And metal rasped against metal. Maya looked toward the window. He won't stop, she said. Jordan. He thinks he can call this family business and pay it silent. He can try, Zeke said. But he brought his wind into a field that grows oaks. Maya took a breath that looked like the first one she'd earned. The twins, do they have names? Ruth's eyes went soft and far away for a heartbeat. Names had always lived in a secret place in her chest, stitched there in quiet hours. I thought, she swallowed. Amani and Zola. Peace and quiet strength. Ora smiled, quick and proud. Then let's wrap them in what you called them. Darius stood awkwardly, unsure where to put his hands, the way a boy stands in a room where something costs more than money. He wiped his face on his sleeve and swallowed. Sheriff's 3 minutes out on foot, he said. Trail from the county road. He told me to stay put. He told you right, Zeke said. You did your part. Feet thundered on the outer planks again. A loud scrape, a hard clang, then the groan of a chain surrendering a link. Alana's progress bar crawled, then jumped, then crawled again. Maya took another step toward Ruth. I called Child Protective Services, she said, the words sudden and strange in the air. Not to take them. To make myself report on the record that the father is a danger. To ask for a safety plan. To put paper between him and these babies before he tries to claim them as trophies. Ruth's fingers stirred. He said he would claim them? He will claim anything he thinks polishes him, Maya said. I won't let him. Not this time. Zeke's phone buzzed once more, a small electric heartbeat. He flipped it. New text, another number he didn't know. We found the gate. 10 minutes to you. See. He slid the phone to Alana. She glanced, nodded. Cole's people. Darius tapped the laptop. Copied, he said, relief loosening his shoulders. Uploading now. Sheriff's email. 3 reporters. My pastor. And my mother because she don't lose anything. Ora placed the second twin into Ruth's arms, gently, like giving back a borrowed light. Now you hold both, she said. Feel what you did. Ruth cradled them, one against each side, and her face softened into a new shape that made even the storm step back from the doorway. For a moment the cabin felt like the center of a small kind world. The gate outside shrieked. The chain gave. A spotlight flashed through the trees and rose like a second bad moon. A motor revved with the dangerous smirk of a man who thinks rules are only puzzles. Sheriff Cole's shout carved the rain. Engine off. Hands up. A second voice cut him, Jordan's. Arrest me after I make sure my kids are safe. Aura's mouth tightened. He'll say anything. Alana snapped the laptop shut and slid the card into her bra like a second heart. Backups distributed, she said. Even if they smash this, it lives. A thud hit the cabin door. Not a knock. A test. Zeke lifted the gaff hook in motion with his chin. Maya by the wood stove. Darius, you crouch behind that table. Alana with Ruth. Maya moved without question, eyes steady now. She kept one hand on the back of a chair as if she might need to throw it. A voice came through the wood, face pressed to the seam. Open up and no one gets hurt. Zeke didn't answer. The latch trembled. The wood held. The voice tried smooth again. Ruth, you don't want to make this worse. Ruth lifted her chin. You already did, she said. It wasn't loud. It carried like a bell anyway. Pause. Then another thud, harder. The radio fizzed. A body brushed past it in the scramble outside. Boots stamped the planks. Someone cursed. The door bowed but didn't break. Storm air shoved its fingers through the seams. Stand away from the door. Sheriff Cole yelled. Last warning. Thunder said something gruff and approving. Jordan's answer folded into the rain. Do your job, Sheriff. I'm doing mine. Wood shrieked. The top hinge spat a screw onto the floor with a small, shocked ping. Zeke's hands tightened. Aura's eyes didn't flick from Ruth's face. Listen to me, Aura murmured, soft as the edge of a blanket. No matter who steps over that board, you hold your children. That's your spine. Maya looked at Ruth. If he gets in, I'll stand between you. You already did, Ruth said, and for the first time since the deck, her mouth twitched into something like a tired, brave smile. The door jerked again. Then silence, sudden and thick. The motor outside cut to a dead hush. The radio whispered back to static. Even the rain seemed to lean in. Darius frowned, peering at the crack. Where'd they? The back wall shuddered. A heavy blow landed not at the door but at the thin plank behind the stove. Zeke spun, swore under his breath, too late to swallow it. He'd forgotten the old service hatch, the one Aura used to pass firewood without heat escaping. It had been nailed shut for years. It wasn't nailed now. Something tore loose. Cold night air rushed in with the smell of wet rope and gasoline. The hatch swung up and a hand in a black glove shot through, grasping for a latch. Zeke lunged. The gloved hand grabbed faster. Ruth tightened her hold on the twins. Maya snatched the kettle and raised it. Alana moved to block without a thought. The glove found the latch, twisted, and the hatch yawned wider, dark mouth opening into the room. A face rose into the gap. Not Jordan's. A woman's. Her eyes were Jordan's shape sharpened to a point. Her hair was tucked in a rain hood. Her smile didn't reach anything that mattered. Evening, she said like she'd brought cookies. Name's Layla. I fix problems for men who don't know how. She slid a small metal can through the opening, thumb on a striker. Aura's gaze went flint hard. Don't you dare, she said. Layla's smile warmed a degree. Sweetheart, I already did. The striker rasped. A bright, angry flame burst into the room, licking the spilled gasoline's breath. The fire made a hungry sound. The baby stirred. Sheriff Cole shouted outside, boots pounding, voices colliding. Maya inhaled like a swimmer before the deep end. And the flame leaped toward the curtain by the stove, just as a second hand clamped Layla's wrist from outside and yanked hard, smashing the can against the sill so the flame sputtered and sprayed like a dying firefly. The hand held tight. A voice grunted through the wood, familiar, gravel-warm, furious in a way it didn't often get. Drop it, Sheriff Cole growled. Or I break you right here. The can clattered to the floor, rolling, spitting a little blue tongue and then giving up. Layla jerked free. The hatch slammed shut from outside, a bolt driven home with a decisive metal bite. Zeke exhaled. Alana's shoulders dropped 1 inch. The front door exploded inward. Jordan filled the frame like a storm finally breaking its jaw. He took 1 step into the room, rain slick on his face, and saw what he had never pictured even in nightmares. Ruth alive with 2 babies, Maya standing not beside him but between him and them, and a dozen eyes, 2 old, 2 new, and the rest seasoned, measuring him not as a husband or a boss but as what he had made himself. He opened his mouth to speak the line he thought would fix this. Behind him, a second figure stepped over the threshold, badge already raised, voice clear. Jordan Johnson, said the assistant district attorney from the county seat, the same woman Maya had texted from the hotel, you are under arrest for attempted murder, conspiracy, and obstruction. Jordan didn't lift his hands. He lifted something else. A small, black shape, stupid as a thread among breathing children. Zeke moved. Maya shouted. And the cabin filled with a sound that everyone knows and nobody wants to hear in a room with new life. The crack split the room, loud, flat, final. Plaster dust puffed from the doorframe where the bullet buried itself. Zeke had already launched from the window like a sprung trap. He hit Jordan low, shoulder to hip, and drove him back into the jam. The second shot never came. The pistol skittered across the floor, spinning under the table. Hands where I can see him. Sheriff Cole tore into the cabin, one forearm pinning Jordan's neck to the door jamb as the other snapped cuffs on his wrists with a clack that sounded like a lid sealing on the boil. The ADA, calm as a stone in rain, stepped aside just enough for Alana to scoop the pistol with a towel and slide it across to Cole's deputy, who'd pushed in right behind. "Gun safe," the deputy called, voice steady but shaking at the edges. Jordan roared, muscles coiling. For a heartbeat, it seemed he might rip out of the cuffs by will alone. Maya stepped into his line of sight, chin up, face stripped of fear. "You aimed a gun at the mother of your children," she said low. "Look at what you've become." He glared back, breath snarling. "Look what you made me." Cole forced him through the threshold into the rain. The deputy followed with the gun. The room's walls breathed out. Zeke pressed his palm to the doorframe where the bullet had chewed wood. He looked at the flaking splinter and then at Ruth, two babies tight against her chest, and only then let the air rattle out of him. Alana's hands moved automatically. Check the twins' color, check Ruth's pulse, press a warm blanket along her sides. Aura tied off a tiny cord with practiced grace and laid clean cloths like a benediction. From the back wall hatch came angry scrabbling and a muffled oath. "Get me out," Layla snarled. Cole's other deputy, a compact woman with the stance of somebody who grew up hauling cast nets, popped the bolt and yanked the hatch wide. Layla's hooded head jerked up. The deputy grabbed her collar, dragging her in like a wet cat. She twisted, tried to kick, found her ankles already wrapped with the rope Cole had slapped on outside. The deputy thumb cuffed her hands and read right smooth as lullaby. The ADA's gaze swept the room, pausing at Ruth. "EMS is staged on the county road," she said, softer now. "We'll have them meet us at the trailhead. Ma'am, I know your first choice is to stay hidden, but the safest next step for the twins is a hospital. I can put security on your door." Ruth looked from the ADA to Aura to Alana. The instinct to flee ran hot under her skin. But the little voices on her chest rose and fell, oblivious to pride. She nodded. "We'll go." Darius hovered, undecided, until Zeke clamped a hand to his shoulder. "You did a man's work, son," he said. "Now go do the rest of it. Stay with the sheriff, hand him your footage yourself." Darius swallowed hard and nodded, squaring up like he'd been given a rank. "Yes, sir." Outside, red and blue lights painted the reeds. Cole muscled Jordan toward the path like a dockhand walking a bull. Maya followed to the threshold, stopped there and didn't step into the rain. She looked at Ruth again, and the words she'd carried like hot iron finally cooled enough to shape. "If you want me at the hospital, I'll be there," Maya said. "If you don't, I'll stand back. But I will tell the truth. To anyone who asks. Even if it costs everything." Ruth met the woman's eyes and found in them something she recognized. A terrible clarity, the kind you only earn. "Tell it," she said. "Tell all of it." Cole turned at the edge of the dock. "Maya Johnson," he called. "You'll give a statement tonight?" Maya didn't look away from Ruth. "Yes, Sheriff." "Good," Cole said. "Then let's do this proper." Zeke and the deputy cleared a path. Alana fashioned a sling from a sheet, tucking one twin against Ruth's chest while Aura carried the second, wrapped like a small ember. They stepped into the wet night, moving as a single creature, Zeke in front with the light, Alana half an arm behind Ruth, Aura steady as a ledger, Maya to the side ready if legs failed. Layla's curses faded behind them, replaced by zip ties and a deputy's board, "Watch your head." The path snaked between palmetto and cypress. Rain fell straight now, not slant like it had decided arguing with gravity was useless. When they reached the trailhead, EMS lights threw a clean cone across the mud. Two paramedics in blue hustled forward, one already warming a neonatal bag valve mask in his hands, the other unfolding a thermal blanket so fast it cracked. "Twin girls," Alana reported, voice crisp. "Early but breathing. First cried right away. Second needed stimulation. Both kept warm skin to skin. Mom stable, moderate bleeding, no signs of retained tissue. Start for monitor, keep them warm." The medics moved, professional grace turned into hands. Ruth climbed into the ambulance, eyes dark with the mix of relief and terror new mothers wear in the first hour. Aura climbed in after, stubborn chin daring any protocol to deny her. It didn't. Maya stood at the open doors, rain beating on her lashes. She hesitated, then spoke without flourish. Those girls are Jordan's, she said. But he's not their father. Not like that word is supposed to mean. Ruth's mouth trembled. She nodded once. Amani. Zola, she said again, a little louder this time as if naming them built walls and windows only she could open. The doors swung shut. The ambulance pulled away, siren low. Alana wiped her eyes with the back of her wrist, then turned to Zeke. We should follow. We will, he said. He glanced at Cole, who was guiding Jordan toward a cruiser now, expression tired and firm. Sheriff. Cole looked up. Rain had soaked his collar, steam lifted from his shoulders. Zeke. You hold him tight, Zeke said. He's got money that thinks it knows the law. Cole's mouth tilted. Money knows plenty. I know handcuffs. Jordan twisted, catching Maya with a look that could curdle milk. This is on you. She didn't flinch. Finally, she said, something is. The ADA stepped up, her umbrella suddenly useless in the downpour. Mr. Johnson, your counsel can meet you at county intake, she said. There will be no private conversations tonight. He barked a laugh that had no humor in it. You think you can keep up? I move faster. Cole opened the cruiser door with 2 fingers. You moved fast today, he said. Right into a felony. They put him in the back. The door thumped shut like a judge's gavel. The deputy eased Layla into the second unit. Even cuffed, the fixer held herself like a woman who believed doors bent for her. Darius stood by his bike, helmet under one arm, uncertainty finally pinching his face. Should I go home? Cole shook his head. You come to the station with me. Chain of custody. Your mama can meet you there. Darius brightened a shade. She'll be proud. She should be, Cole said and gave him the ghost of a smile. Alana squeezed Zeke's hand and jogged toward her car. I'll call when we're at the hospital, she said. You bring Maya. She shouldn't sign papers alone. Maya, who had been strong enough for confession and soft enough to step back when all the air wanted her to rush in, finally sagged. Zeke caught her elbow without making a fuss about it. You did a brave thing, he said. She gave a small shake of her head. I did the minimum. That's what brave usually feels like, Zeke replied. They drove in a quiet line toward the county hospital, the kind of place where the vending machines always worked and the paint never quite matched from wall to wall. In the maternity wing, a nurse with box braids and a voice dipped in honey took charge, gently bossing everyone. You can wait here. Mama and babies are with Aura and Alana. Social workers on the way. Security is posted. Maya perched on a vinyl chair and stared at her hands. Zeke stood. He was not a man who sat easily unless water rocked under him. He walked to the window and watched rain stitch the lot into lace. 20 minutes later, the ADA came in with her laptop and a coffee she didn't drink. She set the computer down and looked straight at Maya. We're going to record your statement, she said. Video, audio, transcript. No surprises. You ready? Maya took one breath and nodded. Start now, she said. Before I think too much. She told it. She told the first suspicion, the first lie, the first time she let herself hate another woman instead of the man who had earned it. She told about the deck, the sway, the decision that fit her hand like a weapon and burned like one after. She told how Jordan's hand joined hers in the worst second of her life. She didn't try to make herself small or big in it. She made herself exact. The ADA didn't blink more than a human should. When Maya was done, she clicked the laptop shut and replaced the coffee lid with unnecessary care. Thank you, she said. This will matter. A nurse poked her head in. She's asking for you, she said, eyes glimmering toward Maya. If you want to come. Maya's fingers trembled. She is. She is, the nurse smiled. If that's okay with you. Maya stood and followed the nurse down the hall. The soft beep of monitors and the faint squeaks of rolling carts made a small orchestra. In a dim room, Ruth lay propped against pillows, dark curls plastered to her forehead, eyes rimmed with exhaustion and a light that wasn't from any lamp. 2 plastic bassinets stood beside her like tiny boats in harbor. Ruth looked up and managed a smile that reached all the places suffering had tried to peel away. They're asking for an emergency contact, she whispered. I told them. I don't have one here. Maya swallowed. Put me, she said. If you want. I want, Ruth replied. They sat for a time that wasn't long enough. They said nothing heavy and everything heavy at once. Zeke leaned in the doorway like a mast in a storm that had decided to be rain instead. Then the door opened again, and the hospital's security officer stepped in with an apologetic crease to his mouth. Behind him stood a woman in a blazer and pearls, hair swept, smile sharp, Jordan's mother, Delilah Johnson. She held a sheath of papers the way a fencer holds a blade. "I'm here as family," Delilah said, voice warm for the room and cold for the air beyond it. "And with a court order from a judge on call." The security officer shifted, uncomfortable. "Ma'am," the sheriff asked. "Sheriff Cole has no authority over family court," Delilah cut in smoothly. She held up the stamped order. "Emergency temporary custody review of any minors alleged to be my sons. Effective immediately. We're not here to remove anyone. We're here to ensure proper placement. Nurses, I'll speak with whoever is in charge." The ADA, called by the ripple of tension, arrived on the next breath, eyes narrowing at the stamp. She read the paper once fast. Her jaw worked. Maya stared. "You called in a judge at midnight?" Delilah's smile stayed pleasant. "Money knows the law," she said softly. "And I know judges who answer the phone." The ADA lifted her chin. "Counsel is on the way," she said. "Until then, no one touches those babies without their mother's consent." Delilah's eyes flicked to Ruth, measuring, then to the bassinets, then back to Maya with a blade's patience. "We'll see," she murmured. In the bassinet, the smaller twin kicked, as if answering a question that hadn't been asked yet. And from the hallway, a hurried voice rose, someone from records, breathless. "We've got a flag on the system. Mr. Johnson's marital status isn't. There's a previous marriage that was never dissolved. He's not legally married to anyone." Every face turned, every plan skipped a beat, and the power in the room shifted, sudden and sharp, like the tide flipping at the river's mouth.